What is going on? I'm Zedmont. We are back with some more goodness. The Rainmakers have been brought into the cycle of prototypes. That means we're going to have it for, what is that, a week? I'm going to guess. We can see in our armory, it should tell us exactly how long we have it for. Yeah, a week. So these start out at level 22 or level 1 below your armory. So you have to be HQ 14 to get them. They are absolute beasts. Now, I'm going to quickly go through them because some players have never had Rainmakers before. There's all sorts of stuff you need to be aware of because they have massive, massive range, but they're a little bit confusing. Suddenly they'll do something that looks absolutely stupid and you'll scratch your head as to what's going on. I will hopefully be able to explain all those intricacies to you in the next 8 minutes or so. We will find out. Now, what I recommend is using them with medics and with Kavan. I know in the past I have crapped on Kavan because he is the worst possible option, but he's actually pretty good with Rainmakers. I like to use the ice shields. The reason for that is because when a boom cannon turns towards your Rainmaker, you don't have enough time to throw a shock. Kavan will save it and you'll be able to carry on. These Rainmakers have huge range. I keep talking about the range. Let's just show you the range. Like, they are massive. They outrange basically everything. They outrange boom cannons, they outrange mortars, they outrange all sorts of goodness, except for obviously shock launchers and shock blasters and doom cannons and lasers. But they have a decent amount of health, so we're not really going to be concerned about lasers. Anyways, what I want to show you is how their targeting works. Their targeting is the exact same as Zuka's, but because their range is so big, it's incredibly difficult to figure out or to see from the very beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this boom cannon right here. I'm then going to smoke one Rainmaker right into here, and you're going to see that it's going to range basically everything. Now, I'm hoping that I'm far enough forwards. Let's shock all of the things just so I can prove to you what it's going to target. See, it's going to shoot over top of all of the stuff right in front of it and go for that boom cannon. So they go for the most damage defense that's in their range. Now, with Zuka's, it's pretty obvious to tell what's in range. With Rainmakers, it's not quite so obvious. You need to be a little bit careful because they like to bunch up, they like to move forward, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, what are you doing? So they will bunch up, they will move forward, and they do cost a fair amount of GBE to drop. So what I recommend is get rid of boom cannons. Be very, very wary of boom cannons. That's all you really need to be concerned about. Obviously, look for hidden grapplers, look for doom cannons and stuff like that. But on a base like this, just be on the lookout for boom cannons and watch your troops' range. And if for some reason they decide to move forward because that machine gun is more damaged, for example, watch this. They're going to move into range of that boom cannon in about, oh, they didn't do it. Fantastic. So the one time I want them to move into range of a boom cannon, they decide not to do it. Obviously, hot pots shouldn't be a big deal because even though it is down, they can't see it, but they're not going to move into its range because it's just super short range. So boom cannons, boom surprise and hot pots, not a big concern whatsoever. You should be able to clear your map with Rainmakers without losing a ton of troops. As you can see, that front Rainmaker starting to get a little bit low on health. We're going to throw a smoke on it. And that's one other thing. You don't have to know how to smoke troops. You don't have to be super proficient with flares and all that sort of stuff. But if you throw the occasional smoke out, you can give your troops a bit of a time to get your medics healing them up and then move on forwards. We've somehow lost a Rainmaker. I didn't see when that happened. I'm going to guess we hit a boom mine or something along those lines. But overall, don't really have to worry too much about your troops. That hot pot, by the way, looked incredibly confused. I'm guessing the fact that I don't have troop health, either the amped rocket launchers and shock launchers and stuff managed to get one of these while I was busy yapping away. But overall, you're not going to have to worry too much about losing these troops. And that is why Rainmakers historically were the #1 proto troop that everyone loved more than others. Lasertrons started to catch up there for a little while, but Rainmakers always hyped when they come. So the prototype troops, we had a couple ones that were not super awesome, whether it be the Protector or the Engineer, which has now been redone. I'm very curious to see if it's back to being good or not, but Rainmakers always on the top of, I mean, they always make the top 3 list anyways. Lasertrons, Critter Cannons, both very, very high on the list, but Rainmakers in honorable mention for sure, if not number 1. Let's keep going. Hopefully I can show you what the heck I'm talking about using the Ice Shield. Ice Shields, as soon as it, like, at some point in all of these buildings, your Rainmakers are going to say, oh, that flamethrower is more damaged. Let's move closer to it. And then the boom cannon's going to turn, and look how closely they clump, though. They all get super, super close to the flags. When you go up against shore bases, if you use flags, the troops are going to be within range of sniper towers, which does not make a lot of sense, and it's incredibly frustrating. But when you start to get against difficult bases, you need to be wary, I should say, of sniper towers and mortars at shore as well. Obviously, one sniper tower versus a Rainmaker, not a huge deal unless that person's got a bunch of boosted ice or something along those lines. Also, if you're not using medics with these guys, you're going to have a bad time because they don't have a ton of health, and a lot of range defenses are going to be hitting them. I mean, as you can see, we're not doing a ton. Maybe you could go with all Rainmakers with Kavan. It all depends how much gunboat energy you have. A lot of people don't have as many gunboat energy statues as me, obviously. If you do, you can drop Kavan with all Rainmakers potentially, but it really comes down to how much GBE you have. Hopefully, we're going to get them moving into range of that boom cannon soon. I've never actually hoped that was going to happen, but come on. So we've got that machine gun is slightly more damage than that boom cannon. Nope, they're not going to do it. So I promise. Oh, there we go. Boom. Boom cannon trying to take down our Rainmaker. Didn't get it thanks to the Ice Shield. That is the only ability that I find to be useful with the standard base you're going to run into on your map. Now, later on, there are a lot of different ways you can use Rainmakers. For example, you can bring in Rainmakers, and if the person has a whole bunch of shields at the back, you can bring in Second Wind to have Kavan bring some rifles in to hit the core, or you can just bring like 6 boats of Rainmakers, 1 boat of medic, and then keep back a boat of Zukas. Keeping back a boat of Zukas is incredibly strong, simply because they're going to come in and be able to burn 1-2 million health off of the core. Like right now, as soon as that rocket launcher is done, we could just bring in our last boat of Zukas and just crush this base. Now, realistically, we don't need to do that simply because this base doesn't have any boosted blue statues, I should say. It's too busy with its green statues. Overall, though, there are so many ways to use Rainmakers. The only things you need to be aware of is A, they can't shoot through sky shields, quite obviously, and they don't do a ton of damage, and they like to walk into danger. Same thing as cryo bombardiers, if you remember those when they came out a while ago. They like to move into danger, so that's why I like to use the Ice Shield. It gives you a second to throw a shock out. It gives you a little bit of space where your troops can miss, and it's not a big deal. So I find that throwing a shock, it has to come all the way up from the gunboat, whereas the Ice Shield happens instantly. So Ice Shield's a great ability to use. Kavan, a great hero to use. I don't typically ever say that. Now, why we're using Kavan is that Everspark stands in front of Rainmakers, Brick stands in front of Rainmakers, Bullet, as you could have guessed, stands in front of Rainmakers. So actually, you know what? This is a perfect example. Right here, realistically, I should have flared that shield generator right there, but had I have brought 1 extra boat of Zukas, I could have dropped those Zukas in, had them burn the shield. We're going to do that right now. Perfect. Thank you, Charles. Charles in charge. Now, as you can see here, I've done 2 attacks, and it's been almost 9 minutes. Rainmakers are not a fast troop. You are going to be able to drop them and then close the game and come back, especially if you have instant training. Drop them, close the game, come back, and your map is clear. Like, you don't want to have to babysit these things because they are incredibly slow. But for low levels, you can clear your map without losing any resources, without having to worry about gold or time to load troops or anything like that. So they are incredibly useful, but they're not super duper fun. And they're kind of like tanks in their speeds, but they definitely have more range. There are some operation attacks you can use them on. They do fantastic jobs of clearing shore on things like Titan. You can shoot over the gap on Minotaur or Centaur. We've done that in against Forlorn Hope, I believe it was. We took down Minotaur in 2, completely ignoring that big rocket garden. It's incredibly interesting, incredibly fun. But one other thing to worry about that I should have mentioned far, far earlier in this video, that Rainmakers are exactly like Scorchers. So with Zookas, if you flare the headquarters, they will continue to shoot the headquarters. Same thing goes with Grenadiers and Bombardiers and Heavies and Warriors and all that sort of stuff. With Rainmakers, if the flare runs out, they're going to look for a new target. And because their range is so huge, you have to keep flaring the headquarters or the what is that thing called? The power core on operations. So you have to be a little bit careful for sure, because they will just go wandering. They're not just going to sit there and shoot the power core. If there's any defenses in range, they're going to stop shooting the power core and start shooting defenses. Also, as you can see here, they start to miss. They are like Grenadiers. They like to miss their target, which is frankly fine with me, but you have to know that, because they're going to overshoot and they're going to miss on occasion. Just like Grenadiers, they clear mines in a fantastic fashion, but they do miss on occasion. Let's start moving over to the right-hand side, because we want to completely ignore that shield. Ignoring the shield, probably not the best option, but I really, really want to bring my Zookas in to show you exactly what the heck I'm talking about, because some of you are probably wondering why I've only used 7 boats. I've explained it already, but a lot of people, seeing is better than hearing or reading. So what we're going to do here is, as soon as we start to get in close to those, what are those things called? Mortars and shock launchers and things, I'm going to flare right over into here, and then as soon as that flare is active, we're going to drop our Zookas. That'll get our Zookas walking exactly to where we want them, and then hopefully our Zookas can start clearing up that core in a second or two, because it's going to take them a while to get there. You definitely need to give them a little bit of time to get into position, but once they do, we're going to be able to burn this power core and burn through those shields. Not your typical strategy, but against boosted ice, it works incredibly well, where the headquarters is somewhere up in here and the shields are against that back wall. So what we're going to do now is just let our Zookas walk up to the core, making sure they don't go into that mortar's range, and then we should be able to burn this without a heck of a lot of difficulties. Now, obviously, if we would have used second wind on this base, we also could have brought in some riflemen. People will argue that second wind is better than ice shields. Really, it depends on your personal preference. My preference is I don't want to lose any Rainmakers, and I'd rather have my Zookas come in late and never lose a Rainmaker than have the option to bring in some riflemen. So realistically, Kavan, probably your best hero when it comes to Rainmakers, but he's not going to make it interesting or fun. He's just going to make it super safe, and safe works when you're trying to get a big upgrade in. So those low levels, load the Rainmakers. They are free. You don't have to get them from the trader. You don't have to spend 1,000,000 gold to get them. And you can absolutely clear your map and do some fantastic things. So quick recap, they miss like Grenadiers. They target like Scorchers in that when the flare expires, they will go looking for more stuff, but they also target like Zookas in the fact that they target the most damage defense that's in range, and their range is massive. So there's a whole lot of things going on. Hopefully that helps you understand what the heck's going on with Rainmakers, because like I said, I can't think of any other troop that combines so many different behaviors. Let's pick up our diamonds. Look at this base coming in strong. If you're looking for a decent base to pick up diamonds, mine does pretty darn well, I've got to say. And the reason why it does so well is that I've hidden all of my mines, and I love trees. So, that's it. That's all. Happy Monday morning, Monday evening, Monday night, whatever the heck it is if you're watching this later in the week. Obviously, these guys and gals are here for the week. You're going to want to get all of the events down, because level 25 Rainmakers look ridiculously op. I will throw the stats into the comments down below so you can see the different levels and their damage and their health and stuff like that. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that sort of stuff. I shall talk to you soon. As always, thanks for coming in. I'm Zedmont. Peace!